Good morning and welcome to our platforms nrpmediaja.com, also Facebook and YouTube at NRP Media JA. It's Monday, January 29, 2024. I am Leon Nash with the NRP Break of Day Newscast. Here are the headlines. The PNP continues its preparation for its local government elections with the presentation of more candidates in Manchester. And the PNP has denounced what it says is the corrupt diversion of fertilizer from the government's distribution program in an alleged vote buying scheme. Police High Command expresses regret at the passing of a deputy superintendent of police who is suspected to have drowned on the weekend. Curfew imposed in sections of Nannyville in St. Andrew Central Division. And in sports, fast bowler Shamar Joseph grabbed an astonishing 7-wicket haul as West Indies stunned Australia by 8 runs in the second test to claim their first win down under in nearly 3 decades. The news today is brought to you courtesy of NRP Radio, reaching you where you are. No boundaries, no limitations whatsoever.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is.
NRP Media and Radio.
The most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Reaching you where you are. No boundaries, no limitations. Now for the details of the news. As the People's National Party awaits the announcement of the date for the local government elections, 15 councillor candidates and 3 member of parliament candidates to represent the party for Manchester in both the local government and general elections were presented in Manchester yesterday. And speaking at the presentation, party president Mark Golding reminded that a PNP government will have a raft of things to be fixed. He labeled crime as the most important, among others.
Crime and violence cannot be solved only by harsh policing measures. We will be tough on crime, but we will be tough on the causes of crime. Bad education system, underperforming education system, inadequate infrastructure to support decent living, especially in low-income communities. A training system that has lost its way under the leadership of Andrew Holman, because he is the responsible minister. A housing trust that has lost its way under Andrew Holman because he is the responsible minister for that.
And Mr. Golding pointed to a litany of alleged wrongdoings by the current JLP-led government, saying that another of the fix for the PNP will to be restore the National Housing Trust to its glory as an organization capable of lending to its members.
11.4 billion. Every year taking 11.4 billion out of the housing trust. Till now the housing trust can't even lend money again. They have to outsource the lending to the private banking system, and they have to pay a subsidy to the banks from the housing trust, putting it further under pressure financially. The PNP is going to make sure that we restore the National Housing Trust.
That was PNP President Mark Golding. And the People's National Party has denounced what it says is the corrupt diversion of fertilizer from the government's distribution program in a vote-buying scheme that misappropriates Jamaican taxpayers' funds. The PNP, in a release on the weekend, says its supporters have reported having observed multiple diversions, or that should be multiple divisions in Western Jamaica, where they allege the JLP faces scrutiny for distributing significant quantities of fertilizer to their political election representatives. The party says particularly alarming was the observed offloading of substantial allocations at the private residence of a member of the JLP, a councillor candidate, that is, for the White House division of Eastern Westmoreland, and at the private offices of the Member of Parliament for Central Westmoreland. The PNP says bags of government property were seen being delivered from a truck registered to the Member of Parliament for Eastern Hanover and was tracked making several other deposits across Western Jamaica at JLP representatives' properties. Shadow Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Dayton Campbell, says that in light of this, he is demanding a comprehensive explanation from the government and the Minister of Agriculture, Floyd Green, regarding this apparent corrupt and partisan attempt to sway the electorate through fertilizer distribution.
Concerns arise over why JLP political representatives are receiving government procured fertilizers by the truckload, especially during nighttime. As the shadow spokesperson for agriculture, I am demanding a comprehensive explanation from the government and the Minister of Agriculture, Floyd Green, regarding this apparent corrupt and partisan attempt to sway the electorate through fertilizer distribution. If these bags of fertilizers are indeed from those previously announced by the Minister of Agriculture for the most needy and qualified farmers throughout approved agencies like RADA.
And that was the Shadow Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Dayton Campbell. He says concerns arise over why the JLP political representatives are receiving government procured fertilizer by the truckload, especially during nighttime, and this needs to be addressed by the government. Further, the opposition is urging the government to take decisive action to protect the ecologically sensitive Mami Bay area from any disturbance that the proposed development by the China Harbor Engineering Company could cause. The PMP says a public meeting held recently in St. Anne marks a crucial juncture in the ongoing efforts to protect the vital ecological heritage of the Mami Bay area. Many residents and interested stakeholders voiced their concerns and consternation with the declared intent to construct a residential development in the area. Their concerns, the PNP says, must be heeded. Shadow Minister Senator Fraser Binns emphasized that there is a need for responsible and sustainable development that prioritizes the preservation of the country's natural resources. She said part of the proposed development will impact critical watersheds for ecologically sensitive areas such as Duns River, Roaring River, Bogue, Mami Bay, and surrounding communities in Ocherias. Noting that the party staunchly oppose the granting of any environmental permit that will harm local residents and jeopardize the delicate environmental balance of the region. Ms. Fraser Binns says the specific parcel of land in question was the decision of the Andrew Holness-led government after 2016 to allow the Chinese company to be the sole owner of the property. The Shadow Minister has urged Prime Minister Holness to provide alternate lands for development, as any development of lands in the ecologically sensitive region must be approached with utmost caution and consideration for the long-term impact on the environment. And in other news now, the Jamaica Police High Command has expressed regret at the passing of the Deputy Superintendent of Police, Delroy Johnson, who is suspected to have drowned in a river at Thatch Hill, Ocherias in St. Anne on Sunday. Reports are that about 2:45 p.m., Johnson, along with another colleague, was playing dominoes in the area when he went into the water. It is reported that he got into difficulties while swimming and drowned. He was fished from the water and taken to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival at hospital. The JCF High Command, Welfare Department, Chaplaincy and Medical Services branch have been offering support to the immediate family members and to the staff at the National Police College of Jamaica. You're listening to news on NRP Radio. It's now 19 minutes going up to the hour of 7 o'clock. A 48-hour curfew has been imposed in sections of Nannyville in St. Andrews Central Division. The curfew began at 8 a.m. on Sunday, January 28, and will remain in effect until 8 a.m. on Tuesday, January 30. The boundaries of the curfew are south along Nannyville Boulevard, Nanny Boulevard from Mountain View Avenue, west along Statue Road from Nanny Boulevard, north along Statue Road from Mountain View Avenue, east along Mountain View Avenue from Nanny Boulevard to Statue Road. During the hours of the curfew, all persons within its boundaries are required to remain in their premises unless otherwise authorized by the ground commander. And the Trelawney police have made a significant breakthrough in an attempted murder case with the arrest of Randane Gibson, otherwise called Jason, a 36-year-old chef of Bounty Hall, Trelawney. Gibson faces multiple charges stemming from an incident that occurred on October 30, 2019, in Sawyers district in the parish. The charges include attempted murder, possession of a prohibited weapon, use of a prohibited weapon with intent to injure, use of a firearm to commit a felony, unlawful discharge of a firearm, assault at common law. And reports are that about 11 a.m., a woman was at her shop when Gibson, with whom she had a dispute earlier, opened gunfire outside her shop. He then entered the shop, grabbed her, and placed the firearm at her head. He attempted to fire multiple times. Unfortunately, the gun failed to discharge. On this occasion, Gibson fled the scene with the firearm. The woman reported the incident to the police. And Kevin Brown, otherwise called Bams, Bam Bam, and Bama T, 21-year-old of Trinidad Road, Kingston 11, has been arrested and charged with a series of offenses in connection with an incident that occurred on Tuesday, December 19, 2023, along Nance Drive, Kingston 11. The charges against Brown include murder, conspiracy to murder, robbery with aggravation, possession of a prohibited weapon, unauthorized possession of ammunition, using a prohibited weapon to commit a felony, and the charges related to the shooting death of an Anthony Wilson, otherwise called Skipper, and Skip, a taxi operator of Q Road and Richmond Park, Kingston 10. According to investigations, Brown, along with an accomplice, chartered the services of Wilson through a transportation application to pick up a female passenger from Greenwich Road, Kingston 13. Upon arrival in the area, Brown and his accomplice, armed with firearms, boarded Wilson's vehicle and forced him to drive to Nance Drive. You're listening to news on NRP Radio, your primary Christian source for news, sports, and the weather on nrpmediaja.com. Reaching you where you are, no boundaries, no limitations. And now let's give you some sporting information brought to you by Hepburn's Glass. They are located at 13 Chisholm Avenue in Kingston, Jamaica.
Hepburn's Glass Supplies is the latest trend-setting supplier of glass and mirrors in the industry. We specialize in tinted and clear glasses, as well as mirrors for all your windows, doors, and closets at very competitive prices. To maximize your shopping experience, we stock 316 and 1/8 mirror thickness and 316 and quarter thickness in our entire stock of float glasses. We have in stock gloves, cutters, and suction cups at unbeatable prices. Our customer service is second to none, with same-day cutting for your specific measurements. Visit our office at 13 Chisholm Avenue, Kingston 13. Call us at 9080962 or email hepburn.glass@gmail.com. Hepburn's Glass, quality service is our priority.
And now for our sports stories, we bowl off on cricket, lovely cricket. Fast bowler Shamar Joseph grabbed an astonishing 7-wicket haul as West Indies stunned Australia by 8 runs in the second test to claim their first win down under in nearly 3 decades. Bowling with an injured toe, the 24-year-old Joseph produced an amazing spell of 7 for 68 as Australia were dismissed for 207 in pursuit of 216 for victory on Sunday at the Gabba. Steve Smith, unbeaten on 33 at the start, carried his bat to be 91 not out, while Cameron Green converted his overnight 9 to 42, but Joseph tore through the innings as Australia lost their last 8 wickets for only 94 runs. Fast bowler Azari Joseph picked up 2 for 62. Congratulations to the West Indies team. On football, goalkeeper Lionel Passy scored the 18th penalty of a nerve-shredding shootout as DR Congo produced the latest shock at the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations by knocking seven-time champions Egypt out to reach the quarterfinals following a 1-1 draw after extra time. DR Congo went ahead for the first time at the finals when Meshach Eli nodded Yeon Wissa's cross to put the team ranked 67th in the world on course for the latest surprise result at the tournament, which has been illuminated by underdog success in Ivory Coast. Their lead lasted 9 minutes before Mustafa Mohamed converted a penalty on the stroke of halftime after Ahmed Hegazi was caught by a flaying arm with Dylan Basubinsinski. That should be Dylan Batubinsika. Egypt finished with 10 men after left back Mohamed Hamdi was shown a second yellow card 7 minutes into extra time for a mistimed lunge on Simon Banza. And other Pharaohs keepers Gabaski had clipped the top of the crossbar in the 9th round of the shootout, and Passy stepped up to win it 8-7 on penalties. In the absence of injured captain Mohamed Salah, Rui Victoria's team ended the tournament winless and suffered the same fate as they did in the 2021 final when they were beaten on penalties by Senegal. And still on football, Reggae Boys head coach back home in Jamaica, Hal Grimson, says Jamaica drawing in the CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers with the likes of Guatemala, Dominican Republic, U.S. Virgin Islands is a pretty tricky one, as some of the teams play real tough games.
It is a pretty tricky draw in a sense. We played Guatemala now twice, really tough games. So we know more about Guatemala than the other teams. We've seen Dominican Republic play Haiti, they made a draw in Dominican Republic. So yeah, it's tricky opponents. I think it will be interesting to see if we play home and away against these teams. I think that's also what matters a lot, if we play at home or away. But yeah, we of course as top seeded team go to this group to want to win our matches, and it's important to win the matches.
That was the Reggae Boy head coach Hemir Hal Grimson. And that's sports on NRP Break of Day Newscast, brought to you by Hepburn's Glass. They're located at 13 Chisholm Avenue in Kingston, Jamaica. We promise to bring you a good news story as often as we can. If you know of or are aware of any event or person whose good story we should highlight, please send this information to our email address at nationalreligiousmediaja@gmail.com or call our WhatsApp 876-336-9928. That's the local news and sports. Stand by now for the latest international news, courtesy of the Voice of America.
This is VOA News. I'm Tommy McNeil. Yemen's Houthi rebels have said they attacked a U.S. Navy mobile base at sea without offering any evidence, something immediately rejected by an American defense official. They said they fired a missile at the USS Lewis B. Puller in the Gulf of Aden. The Puller, which serves as a floating landing base, been earlier stationed in the Arabian Sea as part of American efforts to curtail Houthi attacks on commercial shipping through the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. U.S. President Joe Biden vows the U.S. shall respond to a drone strike in Jordan that has killed at least 3 U.S. military personnel and wounded about 36 others. AP's Jackie Quinn.
President Biden called it a tough day and said those responsible will be held to account after news that a drone strike being blamed on Iranian-backed militants struck a U.S. installation in northeast Jordan near the Syrian border. Insiders say Tower 22 houses mostly engineering, logistics, logistics and security troops who were likely sleeping at the time of the attack. Joint Chiefs Chairman C.Q. Brown on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos prior to the attack described the U.S. role to
U.S. President, I should say Iran's top diplomat is seeking to de-escalate tensions on a visit to Pakistan. This follows a run of airstrikes. We get details from AP correspondent Charles E. Ledesma.
Hossein Amirabad-Dollahian wants to calm tensions after deadly airstrikes by Tehran and Islamabad earlier this month killed at least 11 people in a significant escalation in fraught relations between the two neighbors. The foreign minister says he'll hold in-depth talks with his Pakistani counterpart, Jalil Abbas Gilani. Relations between the two countries were imperiled after Iran targeted militants in Pakistan's restive southwestern Baluchistan province.
It's AP's Charles De Ledesma reporting. This is VOA News.
I want to thank you so much for listening there to the latest from the Voice of America as we bring to you our NRP Break of Day newscast. Stand by now for the weather report and forecast coming your way right here on NRP Radio and NRP Media. The National Met Service is reporting that there is a significant feature of a prefrontal trough across Jamaica. The prefrontal trough is expected to remain through to this afternoon. Afterwards, a cold front is expected to move across Jamaica tonight into tomorrow morning and be east of the island by Tuesday afternoon. Expect cooler than normal temperatures, especially across northern and western parishes, beginning late tonight and continuing for most of this week. In the 24-hour forecast this morning, mainly sunny. This afternoon, partly cloudy. This evening and tonight, becoming cloudy with intermittent showers across northern and southwestern parishes. Partly cloudy elsewhere. In the 3-day forecast starting tomorrow, that's Tuesday through to Thursday. On Tuesday, though, cloudy and cool. Expect intermittent showers across eastern and north central parishes, windy across western parishes. On Wednesday, expect partly cloudy conditions and cool. It's going to be there's going to be isolated afternoon showers expected across eastern and central parishes. And on Thursday, partly cloudy and cool with isolated afternoon showers expected across eastern parishes. Other current regional features at this time: there's a cold front across the Western Caribbean extending from Cuba to Belize. The maximum temperature expected for Kingston and Montego Bay today: for Kingston, 31 degrees Celsius. For Montego Bay, 30 degrees Celsius. That is the latest weather report and forecast in the NRP Break of Day newscast. With that, we've come to the end of our news presentation for this morning. But before we go, here are the headlines once again. The People's National Party continues its preparation for the local government elections with the presentation of more candidates in Manchester. And the PNP has denounced what it says is the corrupt diversion of fertilizer from the government's distribution program in an alleged vote-buying scheme. Police High Command expresses a regret at the passing of Deputy Superintendent of Police, who is suspected to have drowned on the weekend. Curfew imposed in sections of Nannyville in St. Andrew Central Police Division. And in sport, fast bowler Shamar Joseph grabbed an astonishing 7-wicket haul as West Indies stunned Australia by 8 runs in the second test to claim their first win down under in nearly 3 decades. The full half-an-hour package of news this morning came to you courtesy of NRP Radio, reaching you where you are. There are no boundaries, no limitations. Here is your invitation to join us again this evening at 6:30 p.m. for the NRP Evening News Roundup. On behalf of the entire news and production team, our teams, I am Leon Nash for NRP News. We encourage you to join this growing medium. Feel fulfilled and informed. Have a great rest of your morning, reminding you too that if you walk, ride, or drive, make every effort to arrive alive. Good morning. Radio listener, here is another opportunity to join the NRP family and stay for the fellowship in word, features, and music 24/7. Yes, every Tuesday night, Minister Richard Sutton, one of our newest connecting partner, will be right here on the NRP brand with gospel praise 9 to 10:30 p.m. and then rejoin us at 11 p.m. Tuesday nights to 1 a.m. Wednesday mornings. It will be 3.5 hours of word of encouragement, delving into the scripture with regular readings, prayer, and interaction with you listening on the World Wide Web. Yes, it's Gospel Expression Radio, located at Hempstead in the Nassau County of New York, teaming up with the National Religious Partnership Media and Radio, Tuesdays 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. Wednesday mornings. It's a partnership like never before, with NRP Radio reaching you where you are. No boundaries, no limitations.